Good morning, afternoon or evening, wherever you are in the world, and welcome to the back row from What I Watched Tonight. My name is Matt Hudson, and this is a show where anything to do with movies is the subject, however loosely based, and I'm either joined by a guest or I'm going Han solo. So joining me in the back row tonight is me. It's me again, and this is the first of a series of episodes that will be coming out focusing on specific directors and their back catalogues. And tonight we are opening with something that I've dubbed the Friedkin Files. I'm going to be diving into the back catalogue of William Friedkin, one of Hollywood's rebels, and discussing one film in each episode and looking into what made it good, bad, not good, and any interesting stories that surrounded it. Basically, we're just looking behind the curtain. So as for the man himself, William Friedkin, he started out as a documentary maker, though he believed his talents sort of lay more in action and serious drama, smothered with crime, deviousness, hypocrisy, the occult. Though his movies do, without doubt, still retain that documentary feel he brought to his first efforts. He's seen as a director who does things his way, and as we're going to see over the course of the Friedkin Files, that has at times led to ups and downs in a varied career. But in the 1970s, he was part of what was called the New Hollywood movement, a time in film where directors had far more say in their work and art, and a time that ushered in several key advancements in storytelling and filmmaking in general. Other notable alumni included Francis Ford Coppola, Brian De Palma, George Lucas, Martin Scorsese, Ridley Scott, Steven Spielberg, James Cameron, amongst many other hyper-talented people in film. But he's a man whose methods have been studied and questioned in equal measures, but a man who's never bowed to the machine, and by following this path has delivered some of cinema's great moments and indeed movies. But before we go any further, just a warning that there may and probably there's going to be spoilers. There will be spoilers throughout, so this is your warning. And for the first look into the Friedkin Files, we are travelling back only a few years to 2011 with Killer Joe. Released by LD Entertainment, the movie stars Matthew McConaughey just at the start of the reconnaissance as Killer Joe Cooper, a cop who partakes in some contract killing in his spare time. Emil Hirsch as Chris Smith, a young drug dealer who's gone on the wrong path. Juno Temple as Dottie Smith, Chris's younger, vulnerable, slightly odd sister. Gina Gershon as Charla Smith, the kid's reluctant stepmother with a penchant for walking around pretty much naked, though she was wearing a merkin. And Thomas Hayden Church as Ansel Smith, the dopey but strangely amiable father roped into the plan, which we're going to hear about now. As the synopsis says, when a debt puts a young man's life in danger, he turns to putting a hit out on his evil mother in order to collect the insurance. However, the hitman who has been hired has more than just money on his mind when it comes to payments. It's based on the play by Pulitzer Prize winner Tracy Letts, and is the second collaboration between himself and Friedkin after the pair worked together on 2006's Bug. Killer Joe was, in fact, Friedkin's first movie since Bug. It's a gap of 5 years after a reasonably consistent output prior to this. The budget was $10 million for this. Box office returns of $4.6 million, which clearly isn't great. Though as an 18-rated movie, or an NC-17, the distribution was far smaller than it would have been for, say, a 15 or an R-rated movie. And as of now, Rotten Tomatoes has this at a very decent 79%, and it's probably fair to say it was met with critical praise rather than acclaim. Though the movie did do well on the festival circuit and smaller awards as well, notably winning the Best Independent Film and Best Actor for Matthew McConaughey at the Saturn Awards, and the Golden Mouse at the Venice Film Festival. And I believe the Golden Mouse is voted for by online film critics, so those guys know what they're talking about clearly. Now, Killer Joe is defined as a black comedy crime thriller, though I'd probably rearrange that to black crime thriller comedy, because whilst the comedy certainly is black, the other elements do overshadow it. It's best known for its infamous KFC fellatio scene, but Killer Joe really is a movie that has more to it than just sucking specially seasoned chicken from the bone. The movie stays true to the source material and, very much like its director, pulls no punches. It's sleazy, dirty, grubby, it is humorous and polarising, but it's also very, very decent as well. It's tough and unflinching, and is undoubtedly seen as divisive due to its high count of sexual and physical violence, its abuse, Again, both sexual and physical, and a plethora of undesirable themes. But the grounded and slightly absurd approach that Friedkin strives for pays off for the majority of the movie, as the characters are generally well drawn, and the trailer park environment that the movie is set in is unforgiving. And that unforgiving cinematography is handled by Caleb Deschanel, who has recently been awarded an Oscar nomination for his work on Never Look Away, which, if you haven't seen it, is a wonderful looking film. So the film itself is set somewhere near Dallas in an unknown location, even though it was filmed in Louisiana. And there's thunder crackling in the distance. We get oil drums burning mercilessly the whole time, pit bulls barking and howling. It's really not a place you want to end up in. The trailer that the Smith family reside in is dingy, it's dark, it's grungy. Friedkin and co really do a fine job with creating this unnamed area where mediocrity is clearly too high of a bar. It all looks pretty intimidating, to be fair, but what isn't intimidating is the IQ of the Smith family, especially the men. Ansel is daft as a brush, though Chris isn't far behind with his harebrained schemes. Dottie seems to be the more mature out of all of them, despite her age and social mannerisms. But in terms of the actors themselves, Matthew McConaughey is the star of the show, with a charismatic, icy turn as the hitman, swathed in reptilian charm and cold menace. It really is a magnetic performance, dripping in depravity and allure. This is pretty much where McConaughey began his turn from rom-com bozo to a Hollywood heavyweight. Ghosts of girlfriends past, this ain't. But Juno Temple carries herself admirably in a tough role that requires more than just standing about and looking pretty. And I'm a fan of Temple, and her cultured performance here is one of her best, if not her best. And apparently Jennifer Lawrence, J-Law, was desperate for that role. But I think Juno Temple was the better choice. And Thomas Hayden Church is humorously and affably likeable as the father roped into his son's brain-dead scheme. And he provides the movie's quote-unquote humour. And Gershon and Hirsch are fine, there's nothing wrong with them, but their characters are fairly by numbers in terms of the writing and what they really had to do. So, in terms of action, which basically equates to fight scenes, assaults and beatings, is brutal and well choreographed, and every whack and punch has this really heavy sound effect. It makes you wince every time you hear it. But nearly everyone is pretty much subjected to a beating of some kind, and they are visceral, and at times controversial nature of them loiters throughout the whole film. That's something that Friedkin is really good at. He's sort of creating a tension, an atmosphere, where even though what's happening on screen may not necessarily evoke that feeling, there's just an underlying dread somewhere. Even in the films which aren't thrillers necessarily, or horrors, there's always something like looming over the film, and Friedkin really is a fantastic director when it comes to that. But going back to that subject of controversy, Killer Joe does have its fair share. I think that's fair to say and well documented. Joe and Dottie's relationship evolves into a sexual one immediately, despite Dottie's youth and her eventual deflowering, whilst strangely graceful in the way it's presented, is still dark. McConaughey and Temple both on top form as the sleaze and the vulnerable respectfully, as Killer Joe is a fair bit older than his new squeeze. However, they do share a magnificent looking tuna casserole before anything happens. I'm telling you, that is one of the finest casseroles I've seen on screen. The infamous lingering scene involving Joe, a KFC chicken leg, Sharla and forced fellatio will also drag you into uncomfortable places. The direction in that scene just ensures you've got no choice but to absorb what's happening in a real gratuitous, forceful scene. And Killer Joe's misogynistic mannerisms won't sit well with some, undoubtedly. And I think the Women's Society of Film Critics of that year voted this the worst film in terms of how it treated women. And you watch the film, it's not hard to see why. But Friedkin, I don't know, he may or may not have strived for shock value. He certainly achieves it. But aside from that, what really helps Killer Joe is the sharp writing. This is a really well written flick. The overall plan for the murder is handled well, and it allows for some great moments of tension, plus extra chances for Killer Joe himself to show who's really in charge. Killer Joe / Matthew McConaughey is the boss here. He owns everybody here. He's got that magnetic screen presence, which means we want to watch him. The characters in the film gravitate towards him. He is in control of everything. And I mentioned this is based on Tracy Letts' play. That transition from stage to screen is successful for the vast majority of the movie, I'd say, because the origins are apparent throughout. We get major characters who are pivotal to the story are left off screen for a large amount of time. They're just off stage left or wherever they are. There's portions of dialogue that have a theatrical, elegiac quality to them, but at times too much. You can tell where that transition wasn't handled perfectly, shall we say. And certain scenes are shot in long, persistent takes akin to watching a stage show. It is a well-shot movie and it's well-paced as well. But the controversy and debauchery, I think, overshadows Killer Joe, which is a shame, as the story is very decent. This is probably Friedkin's most notorious film since Cruising, way back in 1980. But McConaughey excels as the eponymous character, and Friedkin proves he still has it after all these years. Now, whether you like the movie or not, I think you'll like the cast. The performances here are all very good, and even though I've mentioned Gershon and Hirsch are just very good, just decent, that's not to underplay their roles. They are both very good actors, and they both deliver a good performance in this film. But I just think McConaughey and Semple are fantastic, and Thomas Hayden Church is also very good with what he has to do. Yeah, you're going to need a good scrub after watching this because it is a bit dirty. But Killer Joe, beyond it all, is a very good noir movie. It's full of twists, suspense, and it boasts a compelling narrative. But next time I'm getting me some chicken, I'm taking the boneless breast, please. Overall, it is an intense film. It really is one of those intense films that just grabs you and sort of throttles you slowly for the whole way. And it's got a killer ending that's going to keep you thinking all the way to bedtime. And, I mean, on the movie, Friedkin himself said, it's not about the story itself. It's about good, evil, sin, redemption, and vengeance. All of those things you can see in the New Testament. And those themes, or at least some of them, permeate so much of Friedkin's catalogue, and I feel that they're going to be revisited in future shows. He also went on to say as well that it's the best ensemble cast he's ever had, and he has had some marvellous ensemble casts before, so high praise indeed. The first movie in the Friedkin Files is a good one. I think Killer Joe is a good movie. It is a very good movie. Question is, will the next one be just as good? Find out soon when the next episode drops, but in the meantime, if you want to talk Killer Joe or Friedkin, or just film, drop me a line and let's talk. You can find me at whatiwatchtonight.co.uk or search What I Watched Tonight across Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and every pod in the stable, and the following Friedkin Files and everything else can be found at all good podcast providers. If you like what you're hearing or any of the shows, give us a rating and a review on iTunes at 5-star, please. It really helps the show out massively, and I appreciate all of the love, support and engagement you guys have given. Share it with the people you know. Just let them know there's just a goon from England, from Essex/Woke in England, who loves talking film. So let them know, fellow film fans. It's great to talk with you all. But until next time, thanks for listening and see ya.